Hi. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Alex. I am the CEO at SignOnSite, but my background is in construction. So I worked as a project manager, I did contracts admin, purchasing, all that fun stuff for about 10 years. And then I joined SignOnSite full time in 2019, actually. So yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Brenton, I will let you introduce yourself if you wouldn't mind.
No, not a problem, Alex. Well, firstly, it's great to jump on and actually have a real call. It's been a long time in the making, so quite excited. But yeah, so where do I start? About 40 odd years ago, I was born, and no,
What was the weather like that day?
We'll skip a few years. No, so listen, I think, I guess I got a bit of an interesting background, which is, and I guess it'll give a bit of perspective to some of my crazy, kind of out there, weird, different sort of styles and approaches to stuff. But spent about 18 years throwing people off cliffs, taking them down rivers, and up to 18 days in wilderness type environments as a sort of an outdoor facilitator, educator here in New Zealand. Along the way, I thought I'd dabble in a few other things. So jumped off buildings, ran a rope access company in the Auckland CBD, so installing billboards and the like. Got bored of that for a little bit, so then I joined the New Zealand Fire Service. You
went like extreme at every angle.
Well, Alex, it's either 110% or nothing, right? Like I figured I'll sleep when I'm dead is the philosophy. And then I kind of went back into that sort of youth development type space, and it was finally suggested I got a haircut and a real job. I'm doing okay with the haircut, but then I got into safety, right? And people would arguably say safety isn't a real job, and I don't like talking to people, so I started out as a health and safety trainer. Delivering health and safety training across the country. Now, that's just for anyone dialing in. I don't get my hands dirty. I'm a keyboard warrior, so it's teaching the soft skills of safety, right? Like the how to investigate accidents and all that kind of schmozzle. Along the way then too, moved along into an advising role, doing some facility management stuff for an Australian company, actually, international company called Program. Facility management, and then moved across into Turners and Growers, and now general manager operations at a company called Savory Construction, and co-host of the Circus of Safety podcast, and a whole bunch of other stuff I do behind the scenes in my personal life. So that's a bit about me, really.
I love it. So for those of you who don't know, Brenton is also massively into the BMX community in New Zealand as well. I can't believe that you didn't know the phrase BMX bandit. I don't know how I feel about that.
Well, while I'm massively into the community, I'm a little bit new to the community. Like I said, I don't do things by halves, right? Like, so some people take their entire lives to get fully immersed into the community. I've been around about 8 years, and I'm just like straight into it. And I've got some. We had a little wager. Remember when we caught up last week? We had a little wager. You won.
Yes.
It was some great racing, but the Aussies took it out.
Australia needed a sporting win after the ray gun fiasco at the Olympics. We needed to reclaim something.
Well, listen, I don't want to put down because we've got a few Australian fans on the Circus of Safety, and I don't want to put them down. But it did take a group of 11-year-olds to lift the country to success and glory.
Look, the children are our future, to quote all those English pop stars.
Yeah. We'll roll with that. So yeah, it's been a great weekend actually. Some great racing down in the Waikato region of New Zealand. So it's fantastic.
Wow. Does that mean that you're the person who's out there safety marshalling the events as well?
So that's probably the one role that that I don't do. Although ironically, I am.
Missed opportunity.
I'm on the board for the safety platform. But I mean, how do you do safety, right? You got a bunch of people that are willingly throwing themselves off a ramp at things. It's quite hard to sort of manage that. Although there's actually quite a that is the irony. I'm getting a lot of I do get a lot of not pushback, a lot of comments about how do you let your kids race BMX when you're the safety guy, right? And there's a whole lot of things that happen behind the scenes that people probably don't appreciate. Tracks are built to a standard. The kids are trained. They wear safety gear. There's heaps of ambulances there, and for me as well, it's a risk awareness thing. They're well aware. The faster they go, the bigger the mess, and so that they are willingly doing that with all the safety gear and all the precautions and all the training. So it's a managed risk, right? And that's the cool part about it.
I love it. Well, isn't that something that they say about proper like risk, like how you teach risk assessment in people is to do like dangerous things safely. So it sounds like BMX might be a version of that.
Yeah, although it started biting me in the bum a little bit when I started teaching my son to drive a car, right? Like he's used to hurling himself off with no protection at 50 kilometers an hour down a hill. So put him in a car was a little bit. He's like, "I've got this, Dad. I've got this," and I'm like, "Slow down," as he's trying to make the gap between two cars. And so it's got its pros and its cons, right? It's got its pros.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm sure that we can draw a million parallels between people trying to throw themselves off something with some working at heights
Yes.
jokes later. But look, our topic that we're going to talk about today is how can technology improve your safety processes. So tell us a little bit sort of about maybe Savory and a little bit about what you guys do for safety at Savory.
Yeah, so what do we do? Well, I'm trying to get rid of it, to be fair. Again, probably not a great way to start a conversation. And I've got a big thing, Alex, and I was hopefully going to take a world tour on how to abolish the term health and safety, because I think that's the first sort of problem there is people look at it only as a health and safety type context, right? And they go, what do you do to manage health and safety? And I think the problem we have then is we end up with a whole lot of different things, doing a whole lot of different things, and nothing making connections and nothing joining the dots, as I've been referring to it lately. So what we're trying to do at the moment is really integrate safety into the way we do business. And one of those ways was my role now is not, when I first got employed at Savory Construction, I was the health, safety and environment manager. I'm now general manager of operations. So I get to incorporate safety into the way we do everything. So it's not this standalone thing on a pedestal that people can mock over. We're integrating it into the way we do everything. Everything links back to the way we operate. And fundamentally, we're a construction company, right? So everything should link back to how we operate as a construction company and how we operate as a business. And that's what I'm calling it is we're trying to connect the dots at the moment, rather than have all these separate little things. We do this for safety, we do this for quality, we do this for environment. We do this for construction management. We do this for that. Really trying to bring it all back together and have it in one place, really, which is what technology is enabling us to do.
That's a really interesting concept. I think we can touch on that a lot throughout this session. Something that you said, though, removing safety from being on a pedestal and making it a part of everything. Do you think that there sort of is a correlation where, because like when you have somebody who's titled health and environment, all that, things that they love to add to the health.
HSEQWZYZX.
Exactly. That we end up with like a bit of a bystander effect where people are like, well, safety isn't in my job title, so it's really not a priority for me at all.
Oh yeah, 100%. And it's really interesting how all of a sudden, when I became the general manager of operations, how I was looked at differently, right? So before, when I was the health, safety, environment manager, I didn't get invited to parties. I didn't get invited to functions. I didn't get invited to anything. Now all of a sudden, I don't know how. I don't know how we fitted this meeting in, to be fair. Like I'm supposed to be at a corporate lunch, but that wouldn't have happened if I was in safety. And I do think, because often when you think about other job titles, right, like in construction, we have in New Zealand site managers, right? Their job is to manage the site. That makes sense, right? You've got quantity surveyors. Their job is to manage the sort of the money aspect. We've got project managers. They kind of manage the project. So you kind of understand where people are coming from. Then you get a health and safety person. So isn't their job to manage safety? You kind of see where people get a little bit confused around that. And then you go, well, actually, if you look at my title, it's health and safety advisor, for example, right? Or manager, which means I'm supposed to manage and put systems in place to manage, or I'm there to advise you and guide you. And then it's almost like they're like, well, then what do you do then? And people people seem to feel that if you're not actually physically doing something, you're not doing something. If that is any analogy to go by, but
Yeah, no, I think that's very fair that like if you're not working out loud, or you're not like taking full control of something, that people have a perception that you don't do anything.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, I work really hard at not doing anything.
you're so busy.
Corporate lunches and all that, yeah. So no, it is. I definitely think having. I mean, yeah, it's really hard because you do need titles, and I understand that, and you do need roles. But yeah, I definitely think there's a bit of that bystander effect for sure.
Fantastic. So basically, for those of you who are on the recording, we have had horrific technical issues with this call. So people haven't been able to get into the meeting. We've had emails, we've had messages. We're so sorry. We will send out this recording so that you can view it. But Brenton had nothing to do with this, but he and I are still deeply sorry that you don't get to catch us live, ask your questions live. But look, I'll kick into our official questions now.
Oh,
Brenton,
you mean we haven't actually started?
We haven't. I'm sorry, I'm such a yapper. I'm just straight off track. How has technology changed in the construction industry in the past 10 years?
Well, rapidly, I think would be probably one way to describe it. I mean, it's phenomenal, I guess, and that's with technology across all sectors, right? We seem to hit these peaks and these and I guess these plateaus, and I think over the last 10 years we've seen it increase rapidly, and it's all in all sorts and shapes and ways and sizes that it's done that, from things like integrating with other software, the accessibility of facial recognition technology, the introduction of AI, to identify when people are doing what they should or shouldn't be doing, or where they shouldn't be. It's gone through the roof, which is super exciting. And if harnessed correctly, I think that's the key thing, is if harnessed correctly, can really make a huge difference in productivity, efficiency, and actually, and safety. So it's really exciting where it is, and it'll be interesting to see when. I can't foresee a trough yet or a plateau yet. It just seems to be going. And I mean, you guys are no different, right? Almost feels like every other day I'm getting an email from you going, "Hey, we've just upgraded this," or "Hey, we've just introduced that." That's another sign of the evolution that we're on.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And for context, Brenton isn't even a SignOnSite customer, so it's just
awkward.
So look, what you, I think, have been on the receiving end of safety software business cases, and I mean technology in general as well. And I'm sure that you've prepared a few. What would make investing in technology sort of like worth the investment for you as somebody who would, I suppose, have quite a big impact on the P&L of an organization?
Yeah, so I think the biggest impact is actually, and it's going to probably sound like I'm not answering the question potentially, but I think the biggest impact is actually understanding what it is that you want. And that's where technology is super exciting at the moment, right? If you can imagine it, it's probably happening, right? And if you can imagine it, somebody else, no disrespect to people out there, probably somebody else has thought about it, right? Especially organizations like yourselves, where this is what you do, right? Your whole job is about being ahead of the game and finding the next best thing, and constantly revolving your software. So I think the key thing there, though, to affect the bottom line is really important to actually understand what it is that you're trying to achieve first, because without that, what I think you can do, what will tend to happen, and I'm no different, with the podcast, we've got, there's so much cool AI stuff out there. I'm like, oh, I need to subscribe to that, and then I need to subscribe to that, and then I need to subscribe, and all of a sudden you've got these massive subscriptions for software that you're not actually using. And you've got these massive, you've got 101 different subscriptions, and really, are they actually achieving anything? And the reality is probably not. So I think the key is to really kind of understand what it is that you're trying to achieve, and then really partnering with an organization. And I think that's the other thing that people have to understand, is that software providers are trying to be everything to everybody, right? And that's really, really difficult. And so not every piece of software is going to have absolutely everything that you want, but software companies are also constantly evolving and changing. So, be patient and find ways to work with the software, as opposed to go, oh, well, it doesn't do what I need, I'll get another subscription. Because then also, if they don't talk to each other and you don't connect the dots, then there's more administration and so on and so forth. And so while you might not visibly see it on the bottom line, you will take it up with admin and resource. And so by implementing something that's supposed to be saving you time, effort, and energy, you're actually creating more time, effort, and energy. And people go, the software thing's ridiculous, That's because they haven't actually thought through what it is they want and how they intend to work with that software to achieve that.
Yeah, I think that you've really brought up something for me there, which is a lot of the time when we think about construction and technology, we think about the fact that construction can be very slow to adopt technology as compared to other industries, maybe. But when I was in construction, I always felt like I had all of these things that I wanted to bring in to the company, that I'm like, there could be efficiencies here and there could be efficiencies here. And I ran my team, so I had the right to do that. Like, I was a department head. And so it was like a point there where it's like, you lose so much time in change management bringing in erroneous technologies and erroneous innovations, because they're sort of like the latest and greatest. And you're right, you do end up with these, I think you call them dead ends.
Yes.
As well. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So when you again, this goes, if you go back to not understanding what it is that you're trying to do and the direction you're trying to take it, you end up with the dead ends that I call them, that don't connect to anything. So and the same thing applies to systems and processes, where you're doing something for the sake of doing it and it doesn't actually make sense on its own. So when you say, well, why am I doing that? You're like, well, I have to. Well, why do you have to? And I'm not talking about safety clutter as such. I'm talking about those things that you do that don't go anywhere. And software is the same. So if you've got standalone software over here that's trying to do something in, say, safety, and you've got another piece of software over here that's trying to do something in safety, and then you've got another piece of it, and they don't all talk to each other, and they don't connect, and they don't feed back into the beast, is what I was describing on another talk I did a while back. It doesn't make sense. It just goes to a dead end, and that's where, again, you create those inefficiencies where somebody's got to go into that cul-de-sac or that dead end, get that information out, bring it back out. And I mean, I know there's ways, and there's things like APIs, and there's things like Power BI, they can pull data and all that kind of stuff. But again, that's another system, that's another piece of software, that's some more administration. So suddenly these things just start escalating, right? And so so really encourage people to try and make those connections as opposed to those dead ends. And I probably didn't realize what I was doing when I first did it, but one of the first things I did when I was at Savory Construction, we were the same. We had dead ends. We used Procore as our primary project management software. Mm-hmm. And I won't name the software provider that we used to use from a safety perspective. And they did everything for us. They were all the bells and whistles. We turned on, the first thing I did was cancel the subscription. And people were like, oh, why are you doing that? And I'm like, well, because the software we use to manage projects effectively does the same bad job that other piece of software did. So might as well have one. And then everything's, from a construction company's point of view, Procore is our one source of truth, right? So putting everything in Procore suddenly reduced the inefficiencies. I've only got one piece of software I've got to manage. I've only got one piece of software I've got to train in. And if you can do a quality inspection, you can do a safety inspection, you can do a whatever inspection, right? Really try and make those connections back for people and the system and the business.
Yeah, absolutely. We see it a lot now in people's purchasing on technologies, as they want to know who we integrate with, what information we can push through. Single source of truth is definitely a big factor for construction companies at the moment. They project management teams in particular feel the most comfortable when everything is in one location.
Yeah.
They want to log in and see it, even if it isn't necessarily where that piece of documentation should start. It should be where that piece of documentation ends.
Yeah, I mean, somebody like myself, for example, especially when you start moving up, I guess, the food chain, arguably, and I at times can be across 20 projects, right? I don't want to be jumping into 20 different pieces of software. I'm on the road a lot. I'm on our site, visiting at our people, and I want to be able to pull out my mobile device, and I want to be able to go one place, get one lot of information and know at a glance. Listen, if I want to start deep diving, that's a different conversation. I can start, but depending on where you are in the organization, depends on the sort of the information you need from it, right? So one source of truth where I can go and I can get a high level overview of where my safety's at on a project, without having to go, oh, have people signed in today, jump to one lot, and then, oh, have we done our inspections and jump to another piece of software, all while trying to do it on my mobile phone, so I really think there's a lot to be said for that.
Absolutely. Do you think that at the end of the day, it is worth the trouble to implement a safety software? I mean, in your case, you've said no. Would you go into another business and say yes? Do you think it's case dependent, or do you have a broader view?
I think it's very much dependent on, again, what you're trying to achieve, right? So again, in construction, you kind of tapped on it. We're a little bit slow sometimes to adopt to new things, and it does depend on what it is, but we are a little bit slow. Like, if there's a better way to pour concrete, we'd be all over it tomorrow, right? If there's a faster way to put a piece of timber, we'd have those tools, right? But when it comes to technology, for some reason, people kind of freak out and go, "Oh, we can't touch it." So I think and a lot of our guys, and again, you got to think about the end user. So I'm a keyboard warrior. I sit in the background. I'm comfortable in the IT industry. I'm comfortable dabbling in the matrix, right? But my guys on site, they just want to build a building. They don't want to have to be IT experts and troubleshoot things and figure out where to do this and how to do that. So I think that approach right now in this industry worked for me, and I think it's paid dividends. And our use of our engagement from our frontline staff with our technology has definitely increased. Because it's one place, and now I can introduce different things and how we use it, and the adoption is a lot easier, a lot quicker. So if I want to turn something on tomorrow on, say, a piece of the Procore software that we use, for example, I could log in, I could turn it on. Nobody would know that. I don't need to make a big song and dance about it. It'll just happen in the background, and it will just start being used, which is great. If I moved into another industry where maybe they're a bit more of a bigger adapter of software, or there was something a bit more specific that we need, or they didn't necessarily have that one source of truth like we wanted in construction and project management aspect of it specifically, then by all means, I'd definitely look at, well, what else is out there. As long as at some point, I think it could all come back to the beast, and that could be through APIs, it could be through Power BI, it could be whatever. But yeah, so I think it's very much case dependent and organizational dependent.
That makes a lot of sense. What you said earlier about sort of the connections and dead ends and the frontline user, I think it's really interesting, because for a lot of construction companies, their frontline user is their site teams. And for SignOnSite, our frontline user is a worker, typically. We've had 900,000 workers create user profiles. And so ironically, the most technologically savvy people that we deal with are the least technologically savvy people that you work with. Yep. And so when you talk about these connections and making sure that everything feeds back into the beast, that's actually really how we feel about connecting construction workers into the tech stack of a job site. So when you take your project management tool, Autodesk, Buildertrend, Procore, whichever one you're using, none of them have an option for you to invite an individual worker that doesn't work for your company outside of a subcontractor supervisor to participate in any of your systems, right? But you also don't want to be teaching people that don't necessarily have a safety component to their role how to use a secondary software, which is why a massive thing for us has been our Procore integration, because a reasonable percentage of our construction workers are also Procore users. So being able to send attendance hours, labor hours, the team are sending induction information and things like that through later this year. That's so crucial to us, because it feeds into your piece of most people just want one software where they can have a look at everything. But at the same time, you need to have a solution that is for connecting all of this entire workforce back into your organization's technology stack somehow. You have no other way technologically to communicate with a construction site worker if it isn't a safety technology, whether it's SignOnSite or anything else.
Oh yeah, correct. And I think so now while my initial move was to, I removed a bunch of software to start with. Now as we consider introducing new software back into the business, because again I guess it's about, and I mean you did hit on it there. It is about what again goes back to my original statement. What are you trying to achieve? And if you're trying to connect to your workers, and I think I can talk quite openly about, Procore doesn't really do that very well, right? So that's where something like SignOnSite is fantastic, because it does do that. But then what you're doing is you're then connecting into the Procore system, right? So as long, my question now to any software vendor that comes to me and says, oh, hey Brenton, have I got the deal of the century for you? I'm going to sell you a set of Ginsu knives and you're not even going to know it. I'm like, do you connect to Procore? And what does that look like? If I even think that software is going to meet a need that we have, what does it do that I don't? That doesn't connect back to my beast? Because it depends on what you're trying to achieve and who you're trying to target and what you're trying to get out, and systems like SignOnSite to connect those workers to the project team is vital, and to be able to talk to them and communicate with them and get that information out of them. So it's definitely a massive part of it as well.
I think what you've spoken to there is really like a graduated enrollment of technology. So like you might enroll sort of your business first, and then you might do a secondary ring, which is to like invite your like your subcontractors, your close suppliers. That could be your tendering, that could be like any sort of pre-construction, that could be like your initial like contractor management, and then you would have like a third ring, which would be like inviting your actual construction workers in, and you like broaden it each time. But if you go from 0 to 1 and try to encompass all of those things, particularly in one system, which isn't specialized for any of them, you end up with like a failed change management process, right? Because trying to get 3 completely different stakeholder groups to adopt at one time.
Oh, definitely. And I think, again, it goes back to that whole understanding what it is that you're trying to achieve, right? And knowing your audience too, because if, like you said, the worker on the construction site is never probably going to use Procore. So they don't even need to know that it's there, right? Their main source of truth for them is SignOnSite. That's where they're getting their induction information. That's where they're getting their risk assessment. That's where they're getting the stuff that's important to them. And that's all that matters to them, right? So acknowledging that and going, well, that's cool. But then coming back to the business is like you said, where does it fit into the bigger picture? So just having those random pieces of software. So, and a classic, I mean, I went down this road myself, right? I'm a big fan of planner boards, and I don't know, I'm assuming you use Kanban boards.
Yes, we've used like a Trello style before.
Yep. So I went into Trello, and I'm a big fan of Trello, to be fair, and we use it on the circus of safety because we don't connect to anything. Like, we're just dodgy guys, spinning yarns. But and so I introduced that into Savory Construction as we need to kind of find a place that we can start to kind of communicate like this. But the challenge was that was a dead end, right? So while I love the concept of Trello and it was awesome, it didn't connect back to Office 365, which is our main communication suite, from an email kind of task management sort of point of view for your worker. So what I've done is, while not ideal, so I got the team used to using those kind of Kanban board type things to communicate about specific projects and help facilitate meetings that were more productive. It was a dead end, and so had to then make the call. You know what? While the concept was great, it wasn't the right technology suite for us. So moving across into Microsoft Planner now, while the functionality isn't quite the same as say Trello, because it integrates beautifully into say Office 365. I can sit in meetings with my planner boards open, and I can smash out all these things that all these people are going to do, and then I get back to my desk and actually have to do some real work. And there's my to-do list, right? It's all connected. It all links back, and so again, it's really important to understand, like I said, what it is that you're trying to achieve, and then I think you've added on to what are you trying to achieve, but more importantly, who are you trying to communicate with, and bringing those two things together is the key to having technology be successful for you.
So with organizations that, I mean, Savory is a relatively large construction company as compared to, I suppose, the field at large. If you're a smaller construction company, let's say you were walking into a company tomorrow, it's sort of at that like 10 million mark. Do you really think that technology can be impacting safety for those people, or do you think that it's only for these sort of larger enterprises?
You could argue it's just as important for those smaller organizations, because again, they don't have that resource, right? They don't have the systems and the process, or they don't have the people resource, I should say, to do everything manually, and things manually are time consuming. They'll have the same challenges as a large. Having worked for myself in a small organization, you have same but different challenges, right? So you don't quite have the budgets, but listen, large construction companies' budgets aren't endless either, right? They come to a grinding halt. Trust me, when I've got to explain every month why I've spent as much as I've spent, there's some heated
You're like,
moments.
it's corporate lunches. It's corporate lunches, guys. They're killing
I'm
me.
entertaining. Isn't that what you do? And yeah, so I think small organizations definitely should be tapping into technology to harness them. I think that the challenge for them, though, Alex, is what they use, right? There's some really, you don't have to go out there and get all the bells and whistles. You don't have to go and, invest, depending on what they're doing, invest in millions of dollars worth of software. Again, identifying what it is that you're trying to achieve, finding a service provider that will help you and can scale to your needs. And then also, again, linking back into your existing processes, right? Because they'll have the same challenges with administrating this, because I think that's the bit that hopefully we will touch on is, you can have all the software in the world, but you still need someone to administer it. So thinking about all those things, and I think it would really, if small organizations harnessed it, thought about how they're harnessing it, and partnered with somebody to help them with that, I really think that it could pay dividends, hugely.
I think you made a really good point there, which is, I'm speaking here as somebody who's worked in construction, not necessarily. I'm taking my SignOnSite CEO hat off, because this isn't an ad for SignOnSite. We're just having a genuine conversation about technology and safety. But it really is about finding a technology that works for your business. So a lot of companies sort of feel like as soon as they start up, so this is a scenario that I see often. I've worked at a large construction company. I decide I want to go out on my own. So I want to buy all the same softwares that I saw be really effective at the larger construction company that I worked at. And they walk into an unnamed project management company and they say, hey, mate, I've just started my own construction company. We're going to do some small resi developments, maybe a few commercial fit out jobs. Turnover is going to be about $5 million a year, and they get quoted $12,000 for a project management software. And it's like, dude, you can't afford that. That's not a reasonable investment for your business to be making right now. Your cash flow is going to be so tight with the supplier payments and subby payments that you're going to have to make. You cannot be spending money on software right now. And so what I think is really fantastic is you can use Forms tools up to a point.
100%.
You can use Google Forms. You can use, I spoke to somebody the other day who's been using Jot Forms for their safety forms until this week, they were like, somebody in my personal life, hey, don't you work for a company that does safety? We're at a point where we need a safety software. And it's like, yeah, great. You've recognized that it's your need. It's what your company is ready for. It's what you can afford. And it's not going to jeopardize your company to do a change management process and the benefits that you'll get on the other side of it, of actually having all your forms talk to each other and be in one place, is finally valuable enough to your company to offset the fact that, yeah, you will have to pay for it. And that graduation, I think, is something that a lot of people don't understand is totally fine, totally normal. Technology in construction doesn't have to be buying a construction specific technology.
No, not at all. But it's a little bit like what was going through my head there when you were talking was everyone wants to be like the Joneses, right? You all want to have the bells and the whistles, and it's only natural, right? People, especially if you've had the privilege of working in a large construction company where maybe money is easier to come by, you forget about all the hard work that went into getting to that point. But nonetheless, you take that for granted, right? And then so suddenly, you move out and cash flow's tight. On Google, right? They've got some great tools that are free that you can use. And that's, I think, where we got to be mindful too with technology is we need to still be inquisitive, right? We need to be thinking about what do we want, and being inquisitive to find out other ways to do things, and also being a little bit more open-minded to how can I achieve the same result using something else, right? But no, I totally agree. But I definitely think it's a Joneses effect where you all want the latest car, the latest phone. And listen, I think, having worked for myself before, people just assume that it's, you can do what you want. The classic, you've possibly heard this too. Oh, Alex, can't you just write that off? Yeah, but I still got to have the money to pay for it. Like, it's the same with software, right? And I think that's where that graduated approach is so important, as you kind of build towards it.
Yeah, I think that's right. I feel like technology can significantly impact safety at all levels and all types of companies. And of course, having a specialized safety software is going to be easier for you, right? It's going to prompt you at the right times. People have interacted with it before, all that sort of stuff. But you can achieve similar results at a smaller company if you maybe have like a very cheap administrator. Like when you're a one-man band and your partner is helping you out and she's doing your books and she's doing your safety admin, she can create a Google form that's going to help you. And that is still going to keep people safe on a job site. That's the biggest factor.
And I think you've just articulated that so eloquently. Like it's the process, right, that's going to keep you safe. It's not the software's going to make the back end easier, right? So people shouldn't be thinking, because I maybe can't afford, Procore, or I can't afford SignOnSite right now, I'm going to make people less safe. Those things help make the process better and faster and more efficient and give you better analytics and better data. But then again, if you're a small owner operator, if you needed a software to tell you what was going on in your business, I think there's a disconnect and there's a real problem there, right? Whereas if you are a multi-million-dollar construction company where you've got hundreds of staff, you need that software to help you because you can't physically, I physically can't get around to all 120 of our employees on the daily to check in and chew the fat and see how they're going, right? So I rely on that information and that stuff being fed into me through that software. We use a range of other softwares that send out surveys to our team to see how they're feeling, how the business is tracking from a wellness point of view, how they're feeling about life in general. And I need that because, it's in the perfect world, I'd get around to all 120 of our employees. Let's not even start talking about the thousands of contractors that we use, but I physically can't. But if I was an owner operator that maybe had 5-10 people, I should actually be communicating with them, right? I should have a good feel. So again, a real simple, easy to use Google form is helping you record a process. But the actual interaction is where the value's added for those people.
Absolutely. And I think like you've brought it back as well, which is like these, at the end of the day, we're recording a process, but like there's still needs to be a human element there as well. Like whether that's at a larger company where it's the specific project manager and the specific site manager on that job, having that human connection, or you're a smaller organization and it's the owner coming down because you've got a crane in that day and he knows it because he's paying for that crane. So he's going to be there making sure that it goes okay. I've led us quite astray on this, but I think broadly what we can agree is that technology does have a positive impact on safety, right? It provides greater access to safety. It provides data and analytics on safety. It can be used very effectively to record what has occurred on your job sites. It can help you provide lagging indicators of trends that might have occurred that led up to an incident, or it, I think, goes through all of that, whether or not it is a specific safety technology or whether it is just a piece of technology in general, whatever is the right fit for your business. I think that you spoke very well about how to decide what are the actual goals of having this software and making sure that it is the right fit for that. So if your goal is, I want to record this process, but I'm going to be overseeing it myself, I'm comfortable with everything, that's great, man. Use Google Forms, use Jotform, like save your pennies.
Yep.
If you are like, I can't be on my sites all of the time, I want to create efficiencies with my team who are spending a lot of time recording these processes, then absolutely look at a specific safety tool, look at a project management tool that's going to do those things. Adoption though, that's where I think that we need to go next, because
Right.
technology adoption in construction, it's a spectrum. We have the average age of a construction worker, 35 in Australia and New Zealand. I'm 33, so sorry, I had to remember that.
There was no discussion about having to disclose the fact that I'm 44 on this. Oh, Alex.
Dear, I'm gonna make everybody do height and weight next.
Yeah, no, we better stop. We better stop.
If you think about you and I, there has been technology used consistently throughout our careers. So we're very comfortable with technology. We're very comfortable with mobile usage as an expectation of our work. And then there are still people in the construction industry, because this is a generational shift, who don't understand technology. They don't know how to use it. I spoke to a form worker on our support channel recently who was like, I don't know what the arrows mean, like the next button.
Yeah.
He just didn't have that disconnect, because he hasn't every day of his life for the last 20 years had to click a next button on anything. So what do you feel is the current state of worker adoption, trade adoption of technology?
Yeah, I think it's quite a spectrum, with what I'm dealing with, and one of the considerations is age. So I want to think to one of our current contractors, he's a preferred sort of supplier, and it's a father is the main shareholder owner. Started the company a number of years ago. He's now got a couple of sons working in the business. And I'll constantly get a phone call from the son, right? Oh, hey, Dad asked me. I'm just going to update. Can you send that observation to me? Dad's just asked me to, because Dad gets the email right from Procore saying you've got one new observation allocated to you, and he's like, son, what is this? So the son rings me and goes, hey, Brenton, can you just allocate it to me, mate? Honestly, it'd just be easier. And so I think there's definitely an age spectrum thing there. So adoption, and it's not that they don't want to use it. And I was thinking about this as I was preparing, for hours and hours before this. It was interesting because I was talking to somebody the other day, and especially with the people that are slightly older than myself, closer to the retirement age to enjoy the golden years. And there's this fear of breaking it, which is fascinating.
That is so interesting.
Yeah. Somebody said that to me today. They said to me, Brenton, how do I do this? It was in a piece of HR software. And I'm like, you just click that button. So I won't break it. Unless you throw your laptop out the window, nothing's breaking here.
You can basically come back from just about anything with technology.
Exactly, right. And so there's that. I don't think it's a lack of wanting to use it. I think it's a fear of breaking it. Is one, or getting it wrong is one aspect. And then I think it also depends on the trades specific space of it, right? In terms of what do they do for their, what does their role entail? But I think again that's change. It is changing, because the industry is moving on, and the people coming through now are getting more and more immersed in it. But there's definitely a spectrum of adoption, for sure.
Do you feel like their sentiment has changed? I know 10 years ago the sentiment was you'll never get construction workers to use a personal device for work, and now people are like, I don't want to carry a work phone.
Well, it's funny you say that. You've kind of acknowledged I'm currently not a customer of SignOnSite, but one of the things that I wanted when I went to a sign-in solution was it's got to have a kiosk mode on a tablet. And someone said to me, why do you want to do that? No, I had a number of conversations with a number of different people. Oh, mate, listen, people can use their own phone. They can do this, they can do that. It's actually quite interesting because I said we have to have a tablet because there are still, believe it or not, there's people out there that don't want to use their mobile phone. Think Big Brother's watching, all that kind of stuff. It's actually got to the point we've been tracking our mobile data usage on these tablets, and it's almost zero. Like people aren't even using it, and so the adoption has definitely grown as well again. Because I mean, you got to try to buy a mobile phone these days without some kind of touch screen type stuff going on. You can't, right? A lot of people know how to use QR codes these days. You know, using apps is not foreign so much to people, you know, in their day-to-day life. And I think as technology becomes more day-to-day, the number of people that have, say, like, I've got Amazon Alexas all throughout my house, and you've got the Google version. You know, even people you think, why do you? I never saw you having one of those before. Like they've got them, right? Your fridge talks to you these days. Your TV. I mean, I don't even have an aerial on my house. So I think as technology's becoming more and more day to day in everybody's lives in one way, shape, form, or the other, people are getting used to it, right? And above that, like I said, I'm now at the point where I'm like, well, why do I have a sign-in sheet? Why do I have a tablet? Why am I paying for a mobile data connection when clearly that's for the minority, right? So yeah, it's definitely shifted. Definitely shifted.
And look, with that shift has, I think, come so much data. Like, and when you first get access to data in an industry, people are like, I want everything, but they can't tell you what they actually need. They're just like, I want data. And you're like, yeah, but what data? And they're like, I said data. You're putting your hand up in a very guilty way.
I'm that guy. Yeah. Give me everything. Yeah.
So look, what safety data do you actually find to be the most valuable that you've been able to get from the improvements in technology?
Yeah, when I want to tell my guys off for not following process, like no, we don't use it to discipline people. That's not a common practice in safety. So one of the things that I'm constantly encouraging the teams to use it and to fill it out for. So is to help me understand where do we need to put our time, effort, and energy, right? Not only for the negatives, but the positives. And you can use it in either way you want to spin it. So if it say joining the dots and it connects back to your hazard and risk register, which is the fundamental everything about safety. If we didn't have hazards and risks, you and I would not be having this conversation, right? Because safety would not be a thing. And you can, if you're getting data, say for example, that's connecting back from whatever reason, whether it's incidences or observations or whatever the case might be, where it's linking back to say your hazard and risk register, you can be looking at stuff and going, cool. Well, for that particular hazard, the controls we got in place to manage the risks associated with that hazard are actually doing a really good job. Money well spent. Awesome. Let's keep throwing the hundreds of thousands of dollars at it or whatever we're doing, right? Let's do that. But then if you're getting it where clearly if it's linking back to that register and you can see there's a particular hazard or a particular risk of a hazard that's causing you a bit of a thorn in your side, you can target your efforts and energies to go, well, yeah, and I know there's this whole kind of don't always look behind you, you can't tell we'll get over that, but you've got to have something, right? Doing something is better than doing nothing. And so you can really use the data to help you understand where do I need to focus my time, effort, and energy. And if you're using software like SignOnSite that is connecting into software like Procore and the like, that data these days is actually almost instant, right? You can be responding almost in real time to trends, to things changing if you are agile and you are using your data. But again, it goes back to what I said earlier as well. You actually got to understand what data you want, and you touched on that already, right? I did the same thing. I went Procore, said, oh, hey, do you want to try our new Power BI analytics model? And I'm like, yeah, sure, give it to me. I kind of nearly fell off my chair. I didn't know where to look. I had so much data coming in. It's just like, holy hecker. And this is nuts. And so I've actually cancelled that part of the subscription and said, I actually need to understand first, as a business, what do we want? And make sure that we're coming before we start getting that data out. But yeah, I think it's a powerful tool if used correctly, just like technology.
Something that we see a lot with people that are most successful with the technology adoption are the people that get into our first sort of onboarding call and we go, what are your business goals? And they actually know what they are. Because so often they're like, I just want to do digital inductions. And it's like, great, that will be done in like a day's time. What do you want to do after that though? And so like we can make sure that the data is channeled into, like, companies will be like, we want to be an industry leader in attendance and induction response rates sort of thing. And you're like, great, like we can benchmark you against all the other companies that we have at your size. Like we want to be we want to have a consistent awareness of the hazards for our that our company sees all of the time, because we've never been able to actually understand what are the most common hazards that we see. We think that it's trip and fall, but it's actually something else. Like
hot scolds on the coffee machine, right? Yeah.
You know it's going to be form workers not wearing gloves. Everybody does.
100%. Hey, but we're not here to point the finger at anybody, all right?
Oh dear. So look, Brenton, I'm going to close this out. What advice would you give to safety professionals thinking about integrating new technologies into their safety processes?
I'm going to go back to what the way you've rounded out the call or the chat, and what I said at the start. Really, it's really important, I think, before you go down the road, regardless of whether you've currently got a system and you're looking to change it, or whether you've got nothing and you're looking to introduce it, is really understand what it is that you're trying to achieve here, and then going from there. And if you don't have that, you're going to be spinning a wheel like a hamster, and you're going to come out with nothing, and probably come out more frustrated than feeling like you've achieved something. So really get that clarity on what it is that you're trying to achieve. Now, if it's only, and don't be afraid to think big, right? Even if and then stage that approach, and really don't try to take it all off in one big hit. So yeah, be clear on what you want. Work with a partner that can help you achieve that, and really map out a plan to roll it out effectively. This would be my sage advice, I guess, for want of a better word.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. Again, we're very sorry for the technical issues, but we hope that you have enjoyed this recording, and we'll see you next time. Well, that counts. That counts. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.